Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and customize this Maya interface. I'm going to be removing, or you guys may have seen, I removed the shelf tab. I'm also removing the time slider and range slider since I probably won't be using these. I tend to use a lot of hotkeys. I use simple marking menus, but just by holding down the shift and control buttons. I'm also going to be going up to the tabs depending on what I'm showing for the sake of this DVD. There's a lot of efficiency in setting up your initial workflow, your initial tools. At the end of the project or end of the day, even though you're saving just small increments by not having to go to that menu, at the end of the day, it all adds up and you save a lot of minutes, even just hours. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a sphere. And with that, we're going to set up a basic hotkey. I'm just going to give you guys a brief overview of how to go about doing that. And just go over some of the tools I'm going to be using for the rest of the DVD. You may notice that I will be using a lot of hotkeys. As I said earlier, I'm going to be using simple marking menus, or I may go up to the menu, depending on what it is. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to perform a loop command. So I just did that by just holding down the control key. And you could do a lot of stuff. You could select the loop. You could extrude faces. I mean, you have all these options just by holding down control or shift. And these are just basic polygon drop down marking menus. So yeah, so all these tools are readily available to you in this drop down menu. Tools like Smooth, which you use a lot, Smooth Proxy, Mirror Polygons. You have all these options just by holding down the Shift or Control button. A lot of smoothing tend to do that a lot, so I have that mapped to my Control, Shift, and S key. It's a little unorthodox, but I'm just comfortable pressing that, and I could get to that without even thinking about it. So I mean, it's really whatever tools are easiest for you to reach. So I have my split polygon tool also just readily available to me. I'll tend to go and switch between the drop down menus also, and as I said, I'll even tend to go up to the menu depending on what I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead and select an edge loop, and it's just right there, one click, and you have your edge loop selected. I mean, which saves you a lot of time. So, I mean, whatever the setup may be, it's just get that done, get that out of the way, whether you use the shelves or you use purely marking menus, or you just rely on hotkeys. I mean, it's really whatever speeds up your workflow and whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to have a key bound to a hotkey, a tool bound to a hotkey for everything. And that's why I go to the drop down menus sometimes. So you should just get familiar with accessing these tools, whether that's through dropping down marking menus or having them bound to selective keys. That's totally up to you. It's just a lot easier. So we're just fiddling around, deleting faces, fill in the hole. I'm gonna go ahead and just do a fill hole command just by holding down shift, and I could go ahead and extrude that if I wanted to. Just simple things. But we're gonna move on to actually creating a hotkey, basic hotkey setup. So we're gonna go under hotkey menu, and we're gonna bring this guy up. And let's see, what tool do we need to do? So here's our setup, and on the left you have your category, you have your commands, what that tool does. specific name of the tool, and at the bottom you have a user category where you could string different melds together. Let's say you had a loop split, then a select face, then an extrude. You could string all those together, and that would go under the user tab. That would go under your commands box. You would give it a name and assign a hotkey, and then that would be your user script. So we're gonna go ahead and set up a simple hotkey. We're gonna bind a split polygon tool function to a key of choice. And this is usually a tool that I would agree that most modelers tend to use a lot, polygonal modelers. It's kind of the basis for building anything. You're constantly splitting, and that definitely should be bound to a key. So we're gonna go ahead and select it in our category, and then a command, which is split polygon tool, and we're gonna go ahead and bind a key. I'm sorry. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this old key bind that I had on there. And you may notice that we're using a uppercase X for a new hotkey. That requires you to press the shift button. We're gonna go ahead and do a Control Shift X for a new hotkey, and you could feel free to go ahead and use a simpler bind if you want, maybe Alt A or Control X. It's really up to you. The objective of your hotkey is so that you could invoke your split polygon tool within a matter of seconds. Now, the end goal is efficiency. In a production environment, you constantly have turnarounds, and you need to get something out, whether that's by the end of the day or by the end of the week, and you're constantly modeling and changing and moving stuff around. The last thing you need to be thinking about is tool selection. By having your hotkeys or custom marking menus or whatever the setup may be, you're actually using these tools without thinking about it, which at the end of the day adds to overall efficiency. Imagine getting a task assigned to you where you have a deadline of whether it's an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours, a couple of days or a week, where in reality you actually need more time than that, but that's your deadline. You're going to do everything in your power to get that asset out. I mean, you have to get it out. There's no question about it. You're going to have to do whatever it takes, whether it's cutting corners or whatever you could do to get that asset out to make it look as best as you can. You're going to have to do that. And by having a streamlined workflow that actually aids you, because you're not thinking about selecting your actual tools that you're using, you're just focused on what I need to do next in order to get this done in the time frame that I have. And that's the most important thing in production. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started on the proxy model. The main goal of the proxy model in production is to get the basic proportions of the character to the rigger, so the rig could get started, and to the animation, so that could also work in conjunction with you modeling once you get to the final stages. So here we have a proxy head that I did a while back. Later on in this DVD, I'll be starting the actual Geo head sculpt from scratch. I'll be doing all the clothing stuff from scratch. As far as proxy goes, I have just a stand-in head just for the proxy, and I also have a stand-in body that I also did a while back, and that is available on the DVD. Since we won't be seeing any of the body stuff on Geo, he's totally covered in clothing. It's just for basic underlying proportions. So we're gonna go ahead and start building out his chest area. And this is, again, really simple geometry, nothing complicated, just so we could give the rigger basic proportions, so he has an idea where things are, start placing the joints, And again, it's not set in stone. We will be able to change stuff. This is just to get everything started. So really simple shapes, nothing too complicated. Um, it actually could be a lot simpler than this, but I'm just gonna try and get the proxy just to have a, kind of the same feel as the actual character that we're doing. So I'm gonna build out as much without adding any detailed geometry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try to get some of the characteristics, some of the feel of the character that Peter designed onto this proxy. Again, it's supposed to be really simple, and the sole purpose of the proxy geometry is just to provide the rigger with proportions, and so there could be animation tests. It's totally going to be throwaway work once I start on the actual character itself. Um, so I'm just adding in a little strap area. This is not necessary, but it just gives it more of a feel, as I said. In production, you get a character to um, work on, and you try to get a proxy out as soon as possible. So you get onto the rigging stages. The rigger is going to go in and he's going to lay all the joints out and start getting a feel for constructing the rig. And that's why it's really crucial to just get this out as quick as possible. There are room for changes most of the times, so it's not a big deal. So we're gonna try to keep this simple. We're probably not gonna add any bit more geometry than what we're doing right here. Maybe I'll go in and just represent the pockets out a little bit, just to get that look, like I was saying. So we're gonna go ahead and just add some pockets in right now. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and extrude these guys. And you can see I'm constantly dropping down the market menus. It's second nature to me, but just get accustomed to that. Go ahead and just get familiar. If you're not already doing this, it's really a time saver once you get accustomed to that. So as you can see, I have the body templated in a layer, and I just went up to my menu, which I do sometimes. And I'm gonna go ahead and start on the arm in a bit. Let's just wrap this guy up, get this mirrored over. So we're gonna make sure that we're gonna snap all our points, make sure our center plane is perfectly straight, and then we're gonna go ahead and mirror this over. Okay, so as you can see, we're using this templated body underneath, which I'm just using solely as a guide right now. We're just building the proxy base on it. I also included this on the DVD, as I said, and I tend to use this it's as a guide from time to time. So we're going to go ahead and actually dupe this out, and we're going to grab a small area and just, use this as a building block for our proxy arm. So I'm going to go ahead and select a edge ring, then two faces, and then I'm going to do a grow feature. So with the click of three quick functions right there, I have a decent amount of my arm selected. Let's say you wanted to do a selection, but it was in a tighter area, and it's not easy as just swiping and selecting. You could do a couple fancy stuff like selecting a loop and then to face and then do a grow feature. I tend to do this a lot more when I'm organic modeling, since it's a lot more forgiving. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and take this piece of arm here. We extract it off, and we're going to go ahead and just extrude it out, make it a little bit bigger, and we're going to have it be the proxy upper arm. Since the proxy doesn't require any specific looping, well, you don't have to worry about that right now. It's all forgiven. So, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and shift swipe and delete these areas and just pop that in place. And we're gonna just delete this mid section since it's a proxy model. The rigger is not gonna have the elbow deforming, so we can just go ahead and delete that part out. Just select it and just get rid of it. And the body underneath will not be there. That's just for our build. Okay. Generally, you get a proxy model to do, and I mean, it's really quick, it's easy, it's fun. There's not too much to worry about. So what we're doing is we're gonna go ahead and get rid of some of these loops, or we may just end up leaving them in. Just clean it up a little bit, make it a simpler shape since it doesn't need any of this stuff. So we're just gonna make sure we're not intersecting our geometry with the arms and the shoulder pads, and no intersections. And we go ahead and just delete faces, and we're just making a circular shape, which is more to what Peter has in for his shoulder pads in the design. So we're even gonna go ahead and just do a quick extrude on these just to get a little thickness, make it pop out a little bit more, since we just duplicated the arm over. So now we're just adding a little bit of just aesthetics to the proxy, even though, as I said earlier, it's really not necessary, but just to get it to, you know, have a decent likeliness. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a lot of extrudes and stuff like that. The cool thing with this character is that there's a lot of geometry to be modeled in. Now, because there's so many pieces, you have to make sure that when you hand this off and the rigger gets it, everything is sitting properly. We're not intersecting anything in a way where after he binds it, it's gonna deform bad. It's just a lot of geometry to take good note to, because it's really key in having everything deformed properly. And it's fun. It's gonna be fun modeling. So I'm actually looking forward to that. So we're gonna go ahead and get this guy out of the original layer, and so we're just building these piece by piece. I'm gonna go ahead and start just deleting, cleaning this up, so we could have a forearm. Yeah. So we went ahead and just pretty much did the same thing we were doing for the upper body and the arm. We just made cylinders, or just shaped them to look like what Peter has it for Geo in his concept. Really simple shape, nothing fancy, and pretty much basic modeling work. We're gonna go ahead and start naming these guys, so that everything's named accordingly, and so that when we actually go ahead and pass this on to the next stage of production, which is the rigging, all the naming conventions are in place. So we have a rig being built, and all these pieces of geometry are attached to it. If we ever need to make changes to the model, at least we could go ahead and keep the name in the same, so everything could just be sourced right back into the rig. So it's really important to get a naming convention when you're finished. Name and clean up your model. Make sure when you pass it on, it's as clean as possible. Everything is named. All your objects are in correct groups, and whatever it takes to make it easier in the next step of production. You wouldn't want to get a model to do and just have whatever reference just not be great. Then that would slow you down. So we try to make sure we don't have any problems later on. So we're gonna now move over to our outliner. Just clean it up, make sure there's no extra geometry under a group or outside of a group, go ahead and make sure all your history is killed. You could optimize your scene size, um, whatever it takes to just get this all cleaned up. And we're going to put everything under one group, which is the geo group. Everything's named, so we're going to delete anything that's polysurface 4 or 6, and we're going to get all of those out because those are just previous pieces. We're going to go ahead and group all of this and get ready to send this over to Spencer. And it's nice and clean, and that's it.